Hi, I'm Kelly from Kelly Jones Jewellery. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this crescent moon pendant. I've put a list in the description below of everything you'll need to make this, along with links to my Etsy shop, which is kellyjonesjewellery.com, where you'll find all my written tutorials and jewellery for sale. I am currently having a sale on the Etsy shop. There's also links to my Facebook and Instagram. When you're sharing your finished work online made from my tutorials, could you please mention me, a Kelly Jones Design? And I would love to see all your finished work if you're on Facebook or Instagram. To make this pendant, you'll need 0.8mm wire, that's 20 gauge. Now I've cut square wire today. You can use square or you can use round, be absolutely fine. It's entirely up to you what you want to use. I've cut 4 lengths at 10 inches, which is 25.5 centimetres. Weaving wire, I've got 0.315mm, which is 28 gauge, and these are just the sizes that I use. If you want to use a size above or a size below, that's absolutely fine. It's up to you what you want to use. These are just the gauges that I prefer. I find the 20 gauge is easy to bend, but it's nice and strong. It holds a pendant, and I find the weaving wire, the finer weaving wire, is easier to work with, but that's just me. So you can use whatever gauge you like, really. So the weaving wire, I've wound onto a bobbin. That's just a Bobeeze bobbin by Beadsmith. If you don't have a bobbin, you could just cut lengths as you go. I've cut, you'll need about 200 centimetres. Now it's a crescent moon pendant today. Mine's 35mm from the top to the bottom. These come in all different shapes and sizes. So roughly this kind of size. If yours is much bigger, add a couple of inches to your wire. And if it's smaller, you can let a little bit off, or you could just have a little bit extra handling at the end of your wires. What else have we got? We've got a jump ring. A little jump ring I've made 10mm outside measurement. I use 1.5mm, that's 14 gauge, to make my jump rings. Tools, I've got pliers, round nose pliers, wire cutters, nylon pliers. These nylon pliers I just like to have to hand to straighten the wires and flatten the weaves. If you don't have these, don't worry, it doesn't matter. You may need a second pair of pliers just for attaching the jump ring at the end, so just a second pair just so you can grip the jump ring at the end to attach it to the pendant. So take your 4 wires and put your thumb right in the centre of the wires, and we're going to start just to the left of your thumb there. So if your thumb's in the middle, we're going to start just to the left of your thumb. So take your weaving wire, and we'll start with 3 wraps around that bottom wire. And we'll go over the second wire, so we're wrapping around the bottom 2. So do that twice. And then come up between those bottom 2 wires. Go over the 3rd wire. So we're wrapping around the middle 2. Do that twice. Come up between those 2 wires. And we'll go over the top, so we're wrapping around those top 2 wires. Do that twice, so come back up between the middle wires, over the top. Then come up between the bottom 2 and go over the 3rd, so we're wrapping around those middle 2 wires. Do that twice. Under the bottom wire, over the 2nd, so we're wrapping around the bottom 2 wires, and we do that twice. It will slide along a little bit as you work, so you need to keep checking that you've got it where you want it to be. Just to the left of the centre is where we've started. So then we come up between the bottom 2 wires, wrap around the middle 2. So we're just going to keep repeating that. Now I wrap around the top 2. Then the middle 2 again. Then the bottom 2. So we repeat that weave a few more times. That weave needs to be the length of the width of your stone. Just a little bit less, so the weave needs to be able to cover across the centre of the stone. So I've repeated that weave. It needs to be the length of the width of your stone, thereabouts. And we're going to finish that weave with 3 wraps around the bottom wire. Keep compressing your weave together as you go to keep it tidy. I like to flatten it with nylon pliers. We're going to cut the wire at both ends. And don't forget to to flatten down any sharp bits, sorry. So position your weave across the back of the stone and bend your wires straight up the sides of the stone. Sorry, I did all that without the camera rolling then. So you've got 2 on one side, 2 on the other, and the weave is across the back. Find which side of the stone you want to be the back and the front first. So you pull your wires up quite tight next to the stone there to grip it in place. And this all needs to sit dead central, right across the middle there. So now we're going to shape the wires across the stone. So I'm starting with the middle wires. I'm calling this the middle. I'm going to pull it over the stone. We should probably pull that one over as well. No, we'll do that in a minute because that's just too fiddly. And we need to grip this next to the stone if you can. Bend it around. You've got a nice little scoop. And you really got to try and keep the weave as central as you can, because it's going to keep moving about just for a little while we get it all secured in place. So you need to do that with the top one as well. So grab the top wire and bend that over the stone. And grip that with your thumb. Again, make sure that it's central. And bend that one around 2. Yep, it's a bit fiddly and slippery. Pop it back in. So we've got this shape at the top. I'm going to separate those wires a little bit. And pull it down so it's definitely central, because you don't want it to slide up. If it slides up, you won't have enough space on the top to work. Sometimes it'll slide up and it'll look quite pretty when it's done. So you can keep adjusting it as you go. So now we've got this little shape at the top. So take your weaving wire. We're going to attach 3 times for the top wire. I'm going to wrap 3 times around the top wire to attach it. That's what I meant to say. We're going to position that just to the left. So what we're going to do, we're going to just join all these wires together to hold this in place. So push in the little coils just to the left there. I'm going to hold onto the tail to try and hold it in place a bit better. I'm going to put need to come under that second wire there. So we're going to wrap around those bottom 2 wires. Do that twice. Come up between those 2 wires. And we go over. Did I call that a bottom wire and it's at the top? Okay. One of those days. So we're going around the middle 2 now. And I've come back up between the top 2 wires. And we go over that again, so we're wrapping around those twice. And then we come up. I don't know why I'm thinking it's upside down in my head. I'm going to say the bottom wire again. So I've come under the top wire. I think I'm just trying to confuse you today. And I'm going just all the way over all the wires. So I'm wrapping around all of them. Do that twice. Then I'm going to come up between the top 2 wires. And wrap around the middle 2. Again, I'll do that twice. Try and keeping it all nice and tight. Then I come under the top wire and wrap around those top 2 wires. Do that twice. And then we'll finish with 3 wraps around that top wire. Pushing it all together. Keep it nice and tidy. So we've tied them all together. Pull those wires nice and tight. And then cut both of those wires. Flatten off the sharp ends. And what we'll do now is we'll pull this one down and we'll send this one to the back. And these 2, we'll send those around to the back as well. As you bend them around, try and get it nice and tight so it grips onto that stone there. And to get this one out the way, because this is just going to end short, I'm just going to cut it. I'm going to cut it longer than I want to, so we can look at that later and decide what to do with that. So that's the top part. Happy with so far. Right, back to the other wires. So as we did before, we start with the inner ones. This is the inner side. And we'll take these inner wires. And we're going to do what we did there. Pull them straight over the stone. Make sure your stone is central. Pull the wires over quite tight so it grips onto the stone. Bend it around. And these wires. Bend it over. Scoop it around. similar shape on both sides. Open them up a little bit. And now we're going to secure these wires. I'm just bending those to the back a little bit so they're out the way. So now we're going to secure these wires. We're going to do it the same way as we just did. So take your weaving wire and do exactly the same as what we did here on this side. So I've got 3 wraps around the bottom wire. Then I go twice around the both wires. Coming up between. I want it to sit just to the left a little bit. Then I've got to go around the middle wires. I do that twice. And then we go around all the wires. And we do that twice. Come up between those bottom 2. We wrap around the middle 2 wires twice. Come underneath the bottom wire. Go around the bottom 2 wires twice. And then go around that bottom wire 3 times. Cut the wire off at both ends and flatten any sharp bits. So I just want to take a minute just to tell you about my latest written tutorial that I've recently put in my shop. It's made for beginners, and a written tutorial is when you download a file and it gives you lots and lots of pages. There's 69 pages, there's over 180 images, and it's all just follow along in your own time at your own pace, and it's all about weaving. So if you're a beginner and you'd like to give it a go, it goes through to a few advanced patterns as well. So once you've got your head around the basic stuff, you can challenge yourself with the more advanced weaves if you want to, and you can make practice pieces as I have here while you're learning, or you can add them straight to your finished work. So that's now currently in my Etsy shop. Like I say, it's an instant download, and that's available at kellyjonesjewellery.com. I am currently having a sale on my tutorials on there at the minute, so if you fancy having a look, go and check it out. So now we're going to shape these bottom wires. I'm going to take this wire here and you want to move it to there. So we're going to weave across these 2 now. We want to keep that nice open gap between the 2 wires there. These 2, this one's going to curl up here, this one is going to curl this way, and I can cut those 2 for now to get them out the way. So now we'll weave across these 2 wires. Take your weaving wire and we'll attach with 3 wraps around the top wire, which is the inner, on the inner side. This being the inner side. Doesn't matter, you can start on either wire that you like. If you start on this side, it just might hold it a bit tidier. Try and keep putting your stone in the middle. We want to try and keep the stone central. Like I say, it can slide a little bit, and you can secure it now when we finish the wires around the ends, but it is more ideal to try and keep it central. So we're going to work across these 2 wires, and you don't want to pull them together. You want to try and keep them apart, as you're working. So we're going to go over this wire and push that right the way down as far as you can. And then we're going to go around that wire 3 times. So that's 1, 2, 3. Keep pushing it down. Then we're going to come over the top wire and then push that down. Move up 3 times. 1, whoops, 2, 3. Push it down. And we keep repeating that over this bottom wire. So over the opposite wire and wrap 3 times. And try not to pull the wires into each other as you go. And you just need to repeat this just a little bit more till you come to about here. So just do a few more repeats of that. So I've done a few more repeats of that weave. Cut that wire there. Cut that tail end off too. Flatten any sharp ends. Keep checking the stone is central. So we're going to take this top wire, which is the inner wire, and I'm going to bend it around the stone. So I'm holding the front in place, check the positioning of the stone, and I'm pulling it around tight because this needs to secure the stone. So you pull it around really tight around that stone there. Now this wire, push your weave down. This wire is going to curl this way. It will all make sense in a little while. And then this wire comes around the front, pulling it really tightly. Like that. Then you're going to need a little bit of weaving wire. So I'm just cutting a little bit off there. So I've cut just a little bit of wire. I'm just going to attach with 3 wraps around one of those wires. I've got it around the wire that's wrapped around the back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tie these 2 wires together here. So I'm going to go through that loop. Push it through to go under that wire as well. I'm going to go around that again. And then I'm going to finish with 3 wraps around that single wire. So that's held in place there. Cut off the weaving wire at both ends. I think this video is going to end up being a lot shorter than my last one. That last one just seemed to keep going with all those weaves. So then this wire now, we're going to have a little curl on that one. Lots of curls on this one. And this one's going to be a curl too. Little curl. So I'm very tempted to just have a curl of these wires for a bit before we move on to finish off the top piece. Keep checking that your stone's nice and central. So what I'm going to do with this square wire, I'm just going to pinch the end a little bit. And then grip it as close to the edge as you can. And just carefully curl the wire in. If you do it nice and slowly, you've got more control over it. Make some little curls. This is so fiddly to hold. But you get the idea. Pinch the end. And then grip the wire on the very tip and curl it around. If you do it slowly so you can see what you're doing. So I'm going to curl that one that way and this one this way. I'm going to make this one a tiny one. So I've curled those last two. And move on to these top wires now. So this again is going to secure the stone at the top. It's pretty secure now because it's gripped onto the bottom there. So your single wire, hold on, shall we attach them together first? We'll attach them together first and then we'll start shaping them. So pull them nice and tight. So they're really gripping on the stone there. We're going to again need a little bit of weaving wire. Cut a little bit, that much. What's that, about 6 inches? 6 inches, what's that, about 15 centimetres. So take the middle wire. I'm going to wrap 3 times around that one. Slide it down. We're just going to tie them all together. So go over, or you can go under, but we just need to go around all 3 wires. And then go around a couple of times just to secure them all together. I'm going to go around the bottom too just to make it even. And then finish with 3 wraps around bottom wire. Tie it all together. Cut off those ends, flatten them down. take this bottom wire, so I've turned it around where the single wire comes out. I'm going to scoop that around like that, and just for a bit of extra strength, take another little bit of weaving wire. I'm going to attach that one to the middle weave. This square wire is really tough anyway. I am going to just secure it a little bit more. If you're going to secure an outer to the inner bit, then it'll all be solid. So I'm going to go around that weave. Easier said than done. I don't want to force the pliers down there in case I break the stone. I'll try and go down that edge where it comes away a little bit. Come here. Gotcha. I'll try and pull it back now without breaking the wire. Come on. I did have to persuade it a little bit with the pliers because that just didn't want to go at all. I'm just going to secure that with 3 wraps. If you can go around a bit easier than me, go around a few times to secure that. But there's no way I'm going to get that through there again. So that'll be fine. This wire's really tough anyway. Cut off both ends. I'm going to cut this wire because lots of curls in this one today. Oh, and I curled that wire there. So working on these two now. Take your weaving wire. And we're going to attach, if you're holding it upside down like me, we're going to attach to this top wire. I always try and pull that one up so that once it's in place, you can get to that one to cut it later. So 3 wraps around that top wire, and then 3 wraps around both wires. And that's how I repeat, so come up between and carry on with 3 wraps around the top wire and keep repeating that weave. So I've done 12 repeats of that weave. Cut off the tail end from the beginning. And I'm going to shape that to go around in a big loop. So it sits nicely at the top there. Cut that wire as well. So the inner wire of the loop is just going to curl up there. Can even cut that off now. More curls, and this bottom one is going to go around this bit here. Luckily I've got a gap because it was hard to pull that tight around there. So I'm going to cut it off. Wrap it round there. It's actually easier. It's actually easier if this wire goes down the back instead of around it. So I'm going to pull that back up a little bit. Pop that wire down there. And then try and reshape that. Getting that wire down behind there. You can just wrap it around if you want to, but it is a bit tidier if we can get it to go down the back, and these wires are really tough. So now I'm going to have that wire going over and around those wires, and I shall squeeze that down. So I'm going to squeeze that down and I'm going to curl that wire. So I've done exactly that. I've squeezed that down just by squeezing that there, so I can squeeze it down into place, and I've curled that little one there. Oh, got a one left to do there at the front. I'll cut him a bit shorter. Pinch the ends first on this square wire, otherwise you end up with really square ends. Curl it around, just a little curl, and there we have it. You probably noticed in the video that my fingers are so sore. I have been going crazy with this design today. I absolutely love it. I have put my jump ring on. So I'll just show you, I've been making quite a few because I just love how this design sits. That's got quite a big gap in the middle. I did the bar the other way and separated it, and then did the same because that's so long. But these are the other two that are made. This one slipped up off the centre, but I actually really like how it finished up. So I just need to add my jump ring to this new one. Got too much stuff everywhere now. Again, my fingers are really suffering today for it, but lots of work to show for it. So open your jump ring and just pop it around that weave on the top. Jobs are good in. So I hope you managed to follow this tutorial okay, and I didn't confuse you too much. I get my Crescent Moons off Gail on Facebook. I'll put a link in the description below. I'll put a little link to her group on the screen. There we have it. Thanks for watching. And please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have, thank you. I shall see you in the next video. Bye.